Hey everybody, welcome back to Electric Cafe. Today's album review is on Human League's 1982 album Dare. This is their third album. This was kind of their album that kind of broke them in America after a couple of experimental albums. I think it was a reproduction and travel log. I think it was the first two albums. Um, this was kind of a balance of still using their older equipment and sort of using their sort of more poppy direction. And well, it was more poppy direction in this album for sure. This kind of set the precedence for what Human League would sort of sound like through the next decade or so. Um, I do really like the more analog sound on this one. Their 1995 album, Tell Me Why, Tell Me When, right? Or it was called Octopus. Tell Me When was the signal. Was more, maybe a little bit more digital, a little bit more polished for the time, a little more techno. That was a good album in its own right, a very underrated album after a really rough album in 1990 on Romantic, which I already did a review on. This is my second Human League album review on my channel here. There's definitely some really good catchy songs on here. Um, it still has the rawness of the old style, like I was saying, like with like Sound of the Crowd and Darkness, while it still has the obvious pop tracks on here like Don't You Want Me and Love Action and Open Your Heart. The bass lines and the hooks are really nice. Um, all of them are strong singles. Love Action, Sound of the Crowd, Don't You Want Me. Not a huge fan of Open Your Heart, but it's a cute song, I suppose. But I really like Darkness and Seconds. I think those are more the underrated songs on the album, and sort of balance out the album, especially from their older albums to this album. As far as the opportunities on the album, there's one rough song on the album for sure. There's one 1 minute song which leaves eight songs remaining. So that kind of is what it is. Maybe an opportunity on the album. But you have the usual corniness of Oki's lyrics, which, if you know Human League, sometimes that's par for the course. Or as I put, part of the plan. Sometimes he has some pretty corny lyrics. It doesn't really have too much to say, right? He's in a pop band. He's a good-looking dude. He's surrounded by a couple cute girls that are also in the band. He's touring the world, like, I don't know what else is going on in his life, but he has a pretty good life. Not too many opportunities to write about that are deep and reflective, or maybe what have you. But I'm just kind of half joking. But you don't. I don't know. Like, what's a deep song for Human League? It's just they don't necessarily write deep songs. So you're gonna get your pop and you're gonna get your pop dance music. But the nice thing about the older Human League is the production value is and the instruments are that goes through their career for the most part. You get a lot of nice old classic keyboard sounds in here, that they use, and that makes the songs a little bit more timeless in some ways, and also makes them kind of special and stick out even 42 years later. The title track, or not the title track, but the first track, "The Things That Dreams Are Made Of," it's not bad. I don't like it maybe as much as other people do. I don't think it's necessarily a classic of theirs. Some people think it's a classic. I do like the eerie melody and the cool beat. The bass is pretty funky. Not really fond of the chorus though. The chorus kind of kills it for me. And that's kind of a running theme with Human League. For the most part, they do good choruses, and the choruses are usually one of the best parts. I actually like the verses a lot too, though, on Human League, and sometimes you don't get both. Is part of it, and that's a good example on this one. 2 and 3/4 stars. I also have Open Your Heart 2 and 3/4 stars. I have nothing bad or nothing opportunity to say about it. Nothing great. I think it's a really catchy song. It's good, but it's a little corny. But again, that's Human League. They can do some corny stuff. Sound of the Crowd. I love this song. I think it's amazing. I think it's funky. It's futuristic. It's catchy. I think it's on par with Being Boiled. Like, as far as their career, like the best early songs that are kind of experimental and kind of have a punk edge in a way. For being an electronic band, kind of some edge to it. Being Boiled and Sound of the Crowd are super cool. I still think they're great now. I think Sound of the Crowd is very underrated. Even though it was a single, I think it's very underrated. I have it 4 stars. Darkness, I have 3 1/4 stars. Great groove. I really like the bass line. Great example of how amazing those big analog keyboards in the 70s and early 80s were. So much emotion in something so simple. I'm sure they didn't know it now, but they probably thought they were writing kind of basic songs, and they are kind of basic pop songs. But because of the actual equipment they use, whether you're OMD or Depeche Mode or Human League, it's going to set that. It's going to be part of that song for the rest of history, right? So, sometimes you choose things specifically, like Depeche Mode choosing the Emulator 2s was an amazing choice to use those during those Black Celebration and Music for the Masses, right? In many ways, those made the album. Those choices, in my opinion, the sound of them, and same thing here with using probably some old Rolands and stuff like that. There might be an ARP synthesizer on there and stuff like that, and I'd be curious if you guys know the exact synthesizers they used on this, but there's some really cool sounds, and like on Darkness, the bass line, sick, 3 1/4 stars. Do or Die isn't bad. It's 2 1/4 stars. Get Carter, it's like a minute interlude. I didn't really rate it. I don't want to throw off the ratings. Sometimes I'll rate a song if I like it and it's a minute long. Sometimes if I hate it, I might leave it as a note, but I don't necessarily want a 1 minute song to affect the overall view. So for the most part, I won't review like songs that are like a minute, but sometimes I will. It just kind of depends if it's worth it. I don't want it to throw off the score. Again, when I do the scores on the albums, it's a kind of a checks and balances. I have if the stars add up to a certain thing like 3.0, then I know, okay, well, it's close to 70. So that's kind of my checks and balances. I'm checking the balances with the songs individually and then collectively on the album, and I'm comparing the two and seeing if I feel like landing on a certain number is accurate, depending on some of the overviews of the album, right? So that's how I do my review. I don't necessarily want a 1 minute song that I'm indifferent about. I don't think is good or bad to really kind of throw off the scoring. So I think for the most part I'll stop doing those. Track number 7, I Am the Law. It's not good. Not good. I got it a 1/2 star. I think I was being nice. But it's not a good song at all. Seconds I really liked as well, like Darkness. Very cool. It's sort of like Sounds of the Crowd in a way. The melody is great, minimal, raw but warm. Really cool sound. 3 1/4 stars. Love Action is a great rhythm, great bass line, great hook, great sound. Really catchy track. Great dance track too. It's definitely kind of like a staple of dance sets for myself. And when it comes to like new wave dance tracks, it's just a classic. I was really on the edge of 4 stars and 3 3/4. It is fairly basic song, so it's a cool dance song, but I don't think there's really too much depth there. So I kind of just put it under it at 3 1/4 stars. Really strong song. I just felt it wasn't excellent per se. Don't You Want Me? Even though it's played too much, these ones are hard to review because how do you review a song that is so catchy like this, but it's so overplayed, and you don't care if you really ever hear it again? I can't deny that it's a great track. It basically almost single-handedly started the second British invasion. You think of this song or like Duran Duran or Spandau Ballet in like 1982. That was kind of the late 81, 82. That was kind of the start of the MTV generation, and there was really no bigger track that year. In fact, it was the #1 selling single in UK that year as well. And it went to #1 in America. So you're talking about one of the biggest synth pop songs of the 80s. Probably the top song that year. for new wave or synth pop, whatever you want to call it. Um, so I can't deny that it's not a great track. And don't get me wrong, charts and sales don't factor in with my ratings. I still, that never affects my rating. In fact, when people use that as a reason to validate something, I get kind of perturbed because A, they can't come up with their own opinion, and B, they don't have the experience to really explain their opinion. They're just like, oh, well, it sold 5 million copies, so it must be good. No, it's the actual opposite. The masses don't generally, um, unfortunately, the masses don't often know you get what I'm trying to say. Just know that the songs are more advanced than the time, or art doesn't get appreciated all at the same time. Generally, well, a lot of times the best art, whether it be music, art, you know, cult movies, a lot of times really they don't get their respect or get appreciated till sometimes years later, and that's just because there's a lot of music out, right? There's a lot of movies out. Not all of them have the budget to, or a record label, or fan base to really kind of hit everybody right when it's released, right? Sometimes you'll find an album 5 years later. Sometimes it might be 20. Sometimes it might be longer. But this particular track, like "Don't You Want Me," like it does kind of validate the movement per se, and so that's important for it. The second British invasion, synth pop in general, it does kind of have that, regardless of sales, regardless of who likes it. It's just I do appreciate that it is a very good track. I put it at 4.25 stars. I think that's fair. It kind of defines synth pop in a way. I wouldn't really say it defined new wave. I think of new wave as different. Is it synth pop more so than new wave? I guess so. It's funny, like if you think about Human League, their first two albums, are they synth pop then, or are they new wave? So it's kind of different the way popularity might change your criteria for what genre they sort of go in because they're popular. But "Don't You Want Me" does sound like a synth pop song. I mean, it is poppy. So I think 4.25 stars is a very fair, good rating for that song. Now, I have it scored the best song on the album. Is it my favorite song on the album? No. I like "Sounds on the Crowd" better than that, and I probably even like "Love Action" better than that in some ways. But I do feel like "Don't You Want Me," I'm being a little partial to that just because I like underrated tracks. I like the B-sides. I like the songs that are lesser known than the obvious one. If somebody says play a song from Violator, I'll probably play "Clean." You know what I mean? Just like I don't like to play the obvious stuff. As a DJ, as somebody who plays music for me, that's one of my favorite, probably my favorite thing to do. I like to turn people on to new music, and playing the popular song of bands does not. Uh, I don't think it really pushes the boundaries. I don't think it impresses really anybody. I don't think anybody really gets anything from it, although they get some appreciation, a little dance to it, etc. When you're a DJ, I would rather play a odd remix of it, or play a different song. Just kind of, I look at DJs differently than a lot of people look at DJs. Like some people look at DJs to entertain, and they're certainly there to entertain. But how great of it is it if they're entertaining and you learn something, right? You come home and you're like, oh my god, they played like 5 tracks I've never heard of, and then I asked them what track this was, and I found a new favorite band, right? So that's what I would like to gather if I'm going to see a industrial DJ or something like that. I kind of expect them to be pretty knowledgeable about industrial and teach me something, maybe show me something that I don't know. That's my thoughts on DJ. I look at DJs as diggers. I look at DJs as knowledgeable, well-rounded. The better DJ they are, the more well-rounded they are. The more well-rounded they are, the more they'll keep my attention. The more I respect them. Stuff like that. I don't care about format, vinyl versus digital. It's just music to me. I would rather DJ on vinyl myself. I like DJ on vinyl. I'd rather see you DJ vinyl, a vinyl DJ. You know, if it's more technical or beat matching or stuff, I think it's more fun. I do like the frequencies blending in vinyl better so than CDs when you're actually mixing. I feel like there's more warmth there. There's a different frequency sort of cancellation that happens when you're playing with vinyl. There's more headroom on vinyl. You don't get ear fatigue from playing vinyl versus digital. Digital can be really loud, especially live, especially hour after hour on sometimes compressed digital and sometimes not, and sometimes it's different files. And you know, you may not notice it right away and say, "Oh, that's a better sounding," or that's sort of distorting a little bit, or it's really crunchy and mastered. But you know, after the course of 3-4 hours listening to somebody live like that, you're gonna be like this. You're gonna be like, "Oh my God, let me go home." You listen to a vinyl DJ for 3-4 hours, you're gonna be like, I can stand another couple hours. There's the subliminal warmth. Not really subliminal because you don't notice it, and not everybody notices that or knows that. But you don't get ear fatigue from playing vinyl as quickly as you do playing digital, especially if the DJ is sensible and not blasting it down your ear hole. But sorry to get off on a tangent, but I like underrated tracks. You know what I'm trying to say, and I'd rather play "Sound of the Crowd" than "Don't You Want Me." But I do, you know, when I do these album reviews and scoring and stuff, I do want to keep that in mind, that the importance of the track, not necessarily the sales or people's opinion about it, but just, you know, kind of getting myself out of like, oh, that's just a, you know, like Everybody Wants to Rule the World by Tears for Fears. It's a great song, right? But I don't care if I ever hear that song again. You know, it's just played so much. I don't. But yeah, it's a good song. So how do you rate a song that you're so tired of that, but you really respect it as still a good song when you have to like rate it, right? So that's the difficult thing about rating really popular music, especially the ones that's 42 years old, right? But at least you can see the result of it, right? Its place in history, I suppose, and that's why I do look at things historically a lot. Anyways, I add up the stars for all the songs: 26 3/4 stars divided by 9 songs. Really strong 2.97 rating, so right around 70. You know, considering I gave it a couple extra points just for the sound overall and what this album means. The impact of it. I gave it a 72 out of 100. So right on the low part of very good album for sure. This is a original record here. I'm curious if it has my sister's writing in it. This is my sister's original copy from 1981 that I probably took from her, probably somewhere in the 80s. Nope, it doesn't have her writing on it. Oh, actually, let me look at my... Surprised. Doesn't have her name on it. You know how back in the day, everybody used to write their names on their records, right? In the early 80s, late 70s. But yeah, strong album, 72 out of 100. Really good album. All right, thanks for watching.